Thank you for watching ECSO News, where facts matter. I'm Allison Morgan.
And I'm Amber Southard. We're starting off this episode by asking for your help identifying property crime suspects. On January 15th, 2 suspects broke into a home on Turnerberry Road and also stole items from an unlocked cars in the neighborhood. Breaking the law will have you walking around nervously. Lucky for us, this kid was caught on camera. He was seen breaking into cars on Hollowbrook Drive. And lock your doors, keep it yours. On January 17th, this group of criminals stole items from 19 unlocked vehicles on Two Sisters Way. We also need your help identifying the man in this surveillance video. He was breaking into vehicles in the Wasatch Range Loop area. Pretty sure he's telling us the ECSO is number 1. And several car burglaries took place in the Brownfield Road, Flintlock Drive, and Glenway Drive area. A black male wearing a black hoodie and red basketball shorts carjacked a 2017 blue 4-door Hyundai Elantra. The suspect sped off in the vehicle with an older model Champagne Crown Victoria, possibly following the carjacker. It's believed that these incidents may be related. And if you have any information on any of these incidents, contact Crime Stoppers at 433-STOP or the ECSO at 436-9620. Well, it's that time in the show again where we ask for your help finding our most wanted here in Escambia County. With us is Deputy Melanie Peterson with Crime Stoppers.
Hey, thanks for having me, Amber.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So who did you bring on the show today?
Well, our 3 featured fugitives for this week is, of course, Brandon Egerton. We have had him and profiled him here on the show before, but he is still wanted for escape with no bond. And this is an escape from work release, so, I mean, that was just kind of stupid. I mean, he would walk away. But
you kind of had it good. You were out there working around, and now, yeah.
And now you're wanted all over again. So anybody that knows where Brandon is, we ask that they contact us at Crime Stoppers. Also, we have a Misty Ann Hill. She's also wanted for a burglary of an unoccupied dwelling, unarmed, with a bond of $10,000. And I mean, that's been going on now. That warrant's about 7 months old, so we need to get Misty picked up. Also, and this is no association, but also Christopher Spring is also wanted for burglary of an unoccupied dwelling unarmed, and his bond is $11,000. But, you know, as the sheriff has spoken about during the holidays, and he's all last year, as a matter of fact, keep your doors locked, keep what's yours.
Yes, and Sheriff Morgan's really big on making sure that if you commit a crime here in Escambia County, your face is plastered everywhere. And we kind of started a new thing with Crime Stoppers. Can you kind of talk about the Wheel of Fugitives?
Oh, the Wheel of Fugitives, yeah. And that, everything that I've heard has been positive. I think people really enjoy it. But, you know, every Wednesday, you know, we spin the wheel and we feature that fugitive that's on that wheel that's chosen. And, you know, unfortunately, we've got quite a selection, but we're going to get them picked up.
And that video will be on our Facebook page, facebook.com/official ECSO, as well as your Facebook page.
Absolutely. So again, you know, we definitely want everyone to pay attention to the Wheel of Fugitive on Wednesdays, visit both Facebook pages so that they stay up to date on the fugitives in the area. We never know who's living beside us or who we see out in public. Right. And call Crime Stoppers. And there's 4 easy ways to do that. So.
Okay, can you update us on those 4 easy ways?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, you know, call 433-STOP. That's a call center number. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If they don't want to call, they can also text to 274-637 or crimes. They can visit Gulf Coast Crime Stoppers webpage directly at gulfcoastcrimestoppers.org. Right-hand corner, it'll walk you through the tip submit process. And those who have an iOS or an Android device can go into their app store and just upload the tip submit app. Regardless of the 4 ways that a person provides a tip to Crime Stoppers, they'll be given a tip number. Hold on to that number and they call me on Mondays between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Nice.
Yeah, and I always say, you know, crime doesn't pay, but we do. So
We love that motto.
So yeah.
Do you have anything else?
No, that's great. And this will be on your Facebook page as well. These 3 people that you're looking for.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I try to, whatever we profiling as well as our warrant Will of Fugitives Day, I also put those on our Facebook page so that everybody knows we're still looking for them. And if we do catch them, then I'm going to profile that too.
All right. And that's Gulf Coast Crime Stoppers if they were to search in the Facebook bar?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we always encourage everybody to go on there, visit us, like us, and invite your friends to like us.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you so much. And again, crime doesn't pay, but Crime Stoppers does.
And do you recognize this man? He's our suspect following a shooting at the TNC Food Mart on Fairfield Drive on January 14th. He was wearing a dark blue hoodie when he entered the store and shot and robbed a clerk. Shaquille Kashawn Jordan was arrested and charged in a homicide that took place on January 6th at the apartments behind Vinoy's Tires at 130 East 9 Mile Road. ECSO investigators are still looking for one more suspect in this case. If you have any information on these incidents, contact Crime Stoppers at 433-STOP or the ECSO at 436-9620.
We need your help locating the people in this week's Missing Persons segment. The first juvenile we're highlighting in this segment is 16-year-old Stormy Lynn Brown. Brown has been missing since January 27th. We're also looking for 16-year-old Trinisha Quinchelle Jackson. Jackson's been missing since January 26th. Our next missing person is 17-year-old Sierra Nicole Peden. Peden's been missing since January 9th. If you have any information on any of these missing persons, please contact the Escambia County Sheriff's Office at 850-436-9620 or Crime Stoppers at 433-STOP.
Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Donut Boy. Our very own Donut Boy Tyler was on the Steve Harvey Show earlier this month. Last fall, Tyler, with the help of donations from Krispy Kreme, bought each ECSO deputy a donut to thank them for their service. Steve Harvey's talk show was a special kids edition. Thank you, Tyler, for all the donuts.
Do you like free coffee? Well, this event is for you. Our next Coffee with a Cop is this Friday, February 3rd. The event will take place at the Whataburger located at 5480 Pensacola Boulevard. It starts at 7 a.m. Coffee is free, and you get a chance to meet the deputies who patrol your area. We hope to see you there.
Well, here at the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, we have a lot of programs that we offer, and one is a victim advocate. So we have Lee Ann with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you explain to our audience exactly what a victim's advocate is?
A victim's advocate is an individual who works with families who have been victims of major crimes, such as homicide, suicide, sexual assault, domestic violence, child abuse, and natural disasters. And we go out into the community and we respond to these calls with investigators and provide crisis intervention services and supportive services referrals.
Talk about a day in the life of a victim advocate. Is every day different?
Every day is different. Some days we will have paperwork to do. Some days we'll have major crisis to respond to. We receive recalls from the investigators and the deputies when they're out on scene, so we never know when those calls are going to come in 24/7.
In some of these scenes, it's very traumatic, and you have all age ranges there. It's not just children that sometimes need to talk to somebody. How beneficial do you think it is to be out on those scenes?
I think it's incredibly beneficial. Part of what we can do is provide supportive services. So when we go out on scenes for property damage, how do these families get that type of property back? What services are available to assist them when now they're having nightmares and emotional reactions to their home having been broken into? So it's more than just children, it's people of all ages, families of all ages.
And your assistance to the community, it isn't just immediate, there's some follow-up as well.
Absolutely. We don't have a timeline that we continue working with the families. We can work with them through their court process. So as court dates come about, we can accompany them to court. We can talk them through what happens next. We can work as a liaison between the ongoing investigation and the family. So if the family is unable to get in contact with the investigator, they have a person that they can call.
And what kind of qualifications do you need to be a victim's advocate? And you went a little above what you probably need.
To be a victim's advocate, generally the best course of action is to have a history working within the community, either doing child abuse investigations or some type of case management history, or someone who has a good basis of understanding in social work. Because that's a lot of what we do is do a lot of working together with community agencies and setting families up for success. So I have a master's degree in counseling, so I do a little bit more of the therapeutic perspective, but that's in addition to case management.
And when you arrive on a scene, what's kind of the first thing you do? Can you kind of walk us through that?
The first thing we do is after we've received the call from dispatch, we make contact with the deputy on scene to get some basic information about what's happened and who our parties are. After that, we ask that the deputy take us over to meet with the family, and depending on what type of a case it is, we can provide emotional comfort and support. If it's a family who has experienced a homicide or a death, we can help with death notifications if that's necessary, but provide that immediate emotional crisis support and help them emotionally calm down enough to where they're able to engage with the deputies, engage with the investigators, provide some basic information about the situation, and then we can follow up and provide information on what do they do next, the practical concerns. How does their loved one get from the medical examiner's office to a funeral? How do you set up a funeral? Who do you notify when your loved one has died and they're not going to come to work the next day, or they need to cancel their Social Security? How do you do that? And a lot of times families are not in an emotional place where they can answer those questions, and they don't think about it. If it's a young family, they may not have ever planned a funeral before. So who do you call? So we're able to do that, able to help coordinate those services, able to help coordinate with a wake following those services so that the families don't have to think about that. And oftentimes they just are not capable of thinking of those practical needs at that time. So work with them with that. Initially, when you go out to the scene, you don't talk about funerals. Right. You do the emotional, I'm sorry for your loss, let's work through this together. What happens next? Deal with the gravity of the situation, anger, denial, sometimes some violent outbursts, and really try to set them up into a place where they have a good support person that can help take care of them, and as we move forward. So after making that initial contact, it can be a couple of hours, sometimes it's all night long. We get them to a place where they're safe and comfortable. Then the following day, I follow up with the families to see, okay, so now that you've had a little bit of time, how can I help? What can we do? And I either go out back to the home and meet with them, or they'll come into the office and we'll sit down and talk a little bit, and we discuss what types of services would be the most appropriate. Is it counseling that they need? Do they need someone to go with them to set up the funeral? Do they want someone to go with them to a first appearance at court because they don't want to go by themselves? How can I best help? And then from that, our contact comes less and less, but it's what does the family need? And maybe a week later, I would follow up again. How's everything going? Were you able to get everything handled that you needed to get done? And what more do you need? So every case is different. Every family's need is different. Some families, if there's a fire, they need everything. Yeah. So coordination of getting clothes, food and supplies, medicines, a place to stay. So oftentimes the Red Cross is available to help, but maybe the family doesn't know that the Red Cross is available to help.
You guys are truly angels. I mean, they go out there and people's worst of the worst, and you weed through it, you work with them. Your work schedule blows my mind personally. I saw how many times you get called out a year. I mean, it's quite a bit. You're constantly there for the community.
Yes. Yes, so I am constantly with my phone on my side, waiting for it to ring, and we answer the bell when it rings.
So you're on call practically 24/7.
24/7.
And one of the resources that the sheriff's offers to you and to the victims of these horrible crimes is our quiet room. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. We have a quiet room right outside of investigations, and it's very comfy. I make the joke that it reminds me of my grandmother's living room because it's the kind of squishy couches, and it's very comforting to be in. And there are some nights that, I sit there and color with kids while interviews are going on with the investigators. And there's some nights that I just sit all night long and help a mom through it. One of the very first death notifications I ever did was in that room, and there's no other sound like that. So sometimes you just need to have somebody there for you when you cry. And that room provides a very comfortable, quiet space for that to happen.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. If anybody has any questions about victims advocacy, can they call you?
Absolutely. Give my office line a call. It's 850-436-9294. And if you are unable to get me on the phone, leave a voicemail that will come directly to my email, and I'll follow up with you as soon as I get an opportunity.
Well, thank you, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
I'm Escambia County Sheriff David Morgan, and thank you for watching Ask the Sheriff. This is your chance to ask me any questions you want answered about the ECSO. Our team hits the streets again, and here are some of the questions you asked. Regina asked where she can basically make donations for the homeless, and is the Escambia County Sheriff's Office a repository for those? Regina, we are not, but there are many social service agencies in Escambia County that do that very thing. I would recommend that you go to Coalition for the Homeless. You have the Waterfront Mission, the Salvation Army, and many local church groups also have community outreaches that assist the homeless. So again, go to your phone book or just drive down to the Waterfront Mission and tell them that you have blankets or clothes that you would like to donate. And again, them or any of these other agencies are the ones that make the collections for, again, that community outreach. A question about officers and officers' driving habits and patterns from Austin and Julie. Their questions are different, but basically the gist is they've observed deputies, driving, improperly or erratically. While I certainly encourage and appreciate, you bringing this to my attention, but understand something, there's little or nothing that I can do about this if you can't give me some information about who the officer is. I will assure you that everyone goes through the driving courses at the Sheriff's Office. They're expected, again, because they enforce the law, to obey the law themselves, if anything, to go above and beyond the obeyance of the law, because again, we set the example for our entire community. So what I need for you to do, and again, you can do this anonymously. You don't have to call in and say, hey, this is John Jones, and I saw Deputy so-and-so, and I want to file a formal complaint. Understanding that there is some intimidation factor here, and people don't want to report law enforcement for these sorts of infractions. But I need you to get me a number off of the vehicle. It's always on the back of a deputy's cruiser, and then that way I can specifically, and by the way, I just fielded one of those complaints today I received from someone on the west side of town about a deputy that had been engaged in some activity with their cruiser that was inappropriate for the deputy to do. And so we're handling that now through our operations division, through Commander Lee Weston and Colonel Bain Custer. We intend to, correct that officer's behavior, and hopefully it'll be a one-time event and we'll never have to speak of this again. But you have to give me some information that I can deal with, whether it's erratic driving, tailgating someone, not using their emergency gear, etc. I would be more than happy to intervene in those things and pass it on to the appropriate people at the Sheriff's Office. But otherwise, now what I'll put out is a blanket thing reminding officers that their driving patterns and habits are always being watched by the citizens that we serve. That's kind of like it bounces off. Again, I need to deal with a specific problem. Why? Because if I was sitting in muster today and you read that pass on to me, I'd think, well, I don't do that, so that doesn't apply to me, and so I move on to the next thing. But again, if I get called out of muster by my sergeant or lieutenant, and I'm advised that a complaint was received on me, it was car number whatever that's assigned to you, and you were observed during this time doing this, this, and this, then I'm basically being counseled. I'm being put on notice that my driving patterns have been reported, and if we hear about this pattern again, then it could lead to a written counseling and or a reprimand, and possibly cycling me back through the driving course. So again, you got to give me some specific information. I'd be more than happy to address this situation with the officers at the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, because I always encourage citizens to make complaints. I can't fix problems that I'm not aware of. So thank you for your concern, but again, you need to get me a car number before I can move to the next step on correcting these issues. David asked, do we offer safety services in Escambia County as they do in other locales? The answer, David, is yes. Anytime you're going to be absent from your house, we can place you on what's called a watch list, meaning that you advise us of your house location, your house number. Make sure that you're in the county, by the way, but I understand the Pensacola Police Department does the same thing, so you can also do this there. And just let us know the dates that you're going to be gone, and we add you to a watch list. And so when our officers are patrolling in your neighborhood, we'll go by occasionally and check and make sure that, again, the house is secure. Sometimes, with the permission of the homeowner, if you have a driveway or a carport, our officers will even back in or park in your area while they call in their reports, again, to give a known presence of law enforcement in your particular area. I would also recommend that if you have a neighborhood watch in your area, also let your neighborhood watch captain know that you're going to be out of town for a particular time. And then your neighborhood watch group is also watching your house while you're gone. Remember, collectively as a community, it's all of these services that we all provide, both personal, private, and again, government services, that keeps our community safe. So I encourage you to use all of those and avail yourself to them. Vincent asked, can anything be done about the traffic on 29 between Interstate 10 and 9 Mile? Vincent, excellent question. For those of us who live in Escambia County, traffic and traffic flow is an issue, especially for a county that's growing and is as robust as we are. We have so many businesses coming to Escambia County now, specifically Navy Federal, new housing projects going up in different areas, and so our community is dynamic and it is ever changing. And I appreciate your concern. Those of us who work traffic along with the Florida Highway Patrol share your concerns. However, Vincent, we're not the OPR, or the Office of Primary Responsibility, for traffic flow, or traffic engineering. I would recommend you call your county commissioner. That's in your case Commissioner Berry for District 5 in Escambia County. That area would be in his district. Also part of that is District 3, which is Commissioner Lumen May. Have them get with the Roads and Bridges folks in Escambia County. They in turn will coordinate with the Florida Department of Transportation for any state roads as well as county roads and get a traffic engineering study going for you. I think you already have one going in that area. But again, I don't want to answer for the two commissioners or for those other agencies because they are in fact the OPR for traffic and traffic flow. And so again, we share in your concerns and your frustrations with those traffic problems, but the Office of Primary Responsibility is those that I've just outlined. Samantha has a question about speeding in her neighborhood. Samantha, you also erroneously spoke to, and I want to correct this because you don't have to pay for speed bumps. The process you have to go through is get a hold of your county commissioner. In the area that you mentioned in your question is an overlapping area. You may be in District 2 or District 3, but that really doesn't matter. You can call Commissioner Doug Underhill. He's currently serving as the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners for the next year. Commissioner Underhill will assist you in getting the appropriate survey completed in your neighborhood. A certain number of your neighbors, I'm not sure what the number is now, if it's 55 or 60%, have to agree that speed bumps would be required on your street. So there's several legal humps that you have to go through for the ordinance to get approved, if you will, for your particular area. Also to including responding emergency vehicles, not so much the sheriff's office, but the fire department. Fire department doesn't like speed bumps, by the way, because when they're responding to a fire or the EMS folks are responding with an ambulance, they don't really care for anything that impedes their ability to get there. And I will also tell you that as a homeowner, I don't want the fire truck driving slow if my house is on fire. So they have a tremendous amount of say because it also flexes the frame on their vehicles and it can warp the frames on a fire truck. So speed bumps being put in is a pretty technical, complicated area to go into, specifically the street itself, the weight loads and all that stuff. But you don't have to pay for those. If that's approved, they're installed through Roads and Bridges and the Board of County Commissioners. So when you complain about speeding in that area, we have your location now from your question. We'll notify our traffic division and we'll come out there and write some tickets. We can set up some speeding units out there to run some radar. But let me tell you, Samantha, what's going to happen. We're going to go out there and spend a couple of days in your neighborhood and quite possibly write a tremendous number of tickets. And for the next couple of weeks to a month, Speeding will drop dramatically off because people say, hey, they're focusing on our area. And then after about 60 to 90 days, your problem will pick back up. What you're really outlining, Samantha, is a loss of respect for, our community and a loss of self-control. While we're there to enforce laws, remember, laws are written for the lawless. And so we'll come out and assist you all that we can. It really has to do with good neighbors being good neighbors. And again, good neighbors don't speed in neighborhoods when they know that there are children playing and someone could be injured. So we'll come out and assist you. But again, I just want to warn you, it's not going to solve your problem. It'll be a temporary fix. What occurs is, again, when we have sensibilities as a society, that's not the appropriate thing to do.
So where do you get your dogs from?
Kayla asked, where do we obtain our canines for the Escambia County Sheriff's Office? Kayla, Lieutenant Jason Potts heads up our canine division in Escambia County. He also goes out and checks for the canines that are for sale, and the dogs have to meet a certain set of physical criteria, up to be of a certain age, etc., before we bring them into police training, because as you can well imagine, we spend thousands of dollars training each and every canine, as well as then partnering a canine handler with the particular dog. Right now we get most of our dogs from a kennel in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
And I wanted to know, can you be a deputy with a criminal record, and what's allowed for you to be a deputy if you have a criminal record?
Taylor asked the question, can you have a criminal record and be a deputy or a member of law enforcement? The short answer, Taylor, is no. We have very stringent requirements, of course, to be admitted into law enforcement. And one of those things, as you can well imagine, is that if you're expected to be a keeper or enforcer of the law, the rules begin with you. We have very high expectations for law enforcement officers, and our men and women are judged by a much higher standard than the normal civilian populace. And so therefore, if you have a criminal record, you're excluded from being a member of law enforcement. Remember, you can also email your questions and ask the sheriff at escambiaso.com. We'll be back next week right here on Blab TV, Tuesday night at 8 p.m.